So good morning everyone and welcome back to day 26 of 100 days of code with me, Lilly Code. So this morning I've already had a very fun morning. I was recording this and got the blue screen of death, so that was great fun. Clearly that wasn't fun at all. My video got stopped and now I'm against the clock because I have to do something this evening. Anyway, that's irrelevant. I'm going to try and get the rest of the time in. Why is it just adding C? I'm going to try and get the rest of the time in, but I actually have to shoot somewhere at 1 o'clock. And then I was going to go and stay in my nanny's and I wasn't going to bring all of my stuff. So we'll just have to see how this goes. But I should get some time done now and then we'll see about later on. I don't know, it's supposed to be an hour. But yeah, I think it's time. I have to get a new computer now at this stage. Well, it's still fine. No, I have to get a new one. I had the blue screen of death and then it just like locked itself later on and again stopped everything. So not the most productive morning. Even though I did get a good bit done. So we'll just continue. Right, so what we're doing at the moment with Max, and I just told you all that because if my video is going to be short today, just want to give you guys an explanation because I was supposed to chat off. Anyway, let's just get into the code. Don't need to be worrying about that stuff. So what we're going to do now is here in our navigation.js, we're going to use this new auth context.js that we've created, which what this does is it creates a context and it just tracks if you're logged in or not. So we can use this as a consumer and also as a producer. That's how this, or a provider and a consumer, that's how these create context work. So let's get stuck in. Okay, I have things and see what's going on. So I'm going to close everything else because we just had too many tabs open there, and I will just bring this down so you can see it. And then navigation, here we go. So in here we are going to use our auth context as a consumer. Yes, as a consumer. And then this is going to wrap our entire navigation component, the return statement of that. So we'll actually tab all of this in and we will just close that off. So super duper, and check that that is imported, which it has automatically imported for us. Unexpected token, eh? Where? This. Okay. Well, I'm going to just leave that there for a moment because that's what I think I'm supposed to do. And then in the return statement, and then just worry about the errors in a moment, because that's what Max has done. So perhaps, there's something else small we need to add, but I won't worry about the error for a second. So then in the app.js, this is where we're going to give the auth context.provider. We're going to use it as a provider here. So I'll just close this off as well down below. And okay. So we still have that error, but that's okay because Max still hasn't finished. Okay. Ah. Okay, so yes, we have just used the consumer for the navigation incorrectly. So when you define an auth context.consumer, you also need to pass it in a function which returns out your JSX code. So we have our auth consumer, and then we declare a JSS fragmenter. Like, yeah, we want to use the curly brackets and then just define a function call and pass in a return statement also. So I need circular brackets here. And then I just want to return. No, I don't need circular brackets. Am I awake? So just like this, and then we're going to return and some brackets. And in here I'm going to type CSX. So just as in our context, that's being returned. CTX, sorry. And then in my return statement, I'm going to return everything that was being returned previously down below. And we should leave our auth context consumer a level outside of this because it's a level outside of it above. So here we can see that this is actually at a higher level as our CTX, the function that goes along with the auth context consumer, the associated function with the return to return out the JSX. So this is outside of that, so our closing tag will also be outside of that. And there we have it. Hey presto. So great. So that's all okay. Okay. Say there's some coders out there like, oh my god, our brackets, somebody fix them. But I'm gonna just keep listening. Okay, so if we reload, Max says that this should crash now. Hey, I'm doing all right. So, let's just keep on. So where we define our provider in our app.js, we also need to provide something else here when we're using this type of tag for an auth context, create context. For a create context, when we're using create context, we should also pass in the initial state with the provider. So the initial state we've already given it here is logged in as false. But we just need to pass this in with our app.js, and then that will be passed to all of the parents that use this provider. Children. So to do that, we will just come in here into our tag. Okay. So we didn't do that last thing within the tag, did we? Should we have? Because I didn't. So we'll check that out now in a moment, and I'll just paste in my value here. So this is going to be value is equal to, and we're going to open our curly parentheses, and then we're going to just clean this up a bit. Okay, so everything should go in one level, you know. That's how that works, and you can change the way that you're indenting things. So yeah, there you go. So then here that's closing off that, and then this is coming in at the next level, so that's okay. And then false, and if we wanted to add another pass something in here, we could do, so this could be a comma in order to pass something else in, but we're going to just leave it like that for the moment. And I'm just going to go back and check where he put that. Okay, so the consumer is okay. We do not, so see here the way for the initial value, this is a value passed as part of this auth context provider, somewhat like a prop in a way. Well, it sort of is a prop, isn't it? Because then anywhere, well, I don't know for sure, to be honest. This is we certainly didn't define this prop. This is inbuilt, so perhaps that it probably has a different name. The props are the things that we define and then we pass down. So I'm not certain about that, but it's similar to being defined like a prop. You know, you have your thing called out within your tag itself of the thing that you are calling out here, your React component, or this is slightly different. This is a create context, so it's different than a component, as we can see by the format of the actual code itself here. You know, we haven't declared a function call in order to use this, and it's also not done in Pascal case. If you want to check out more about the cases, check out yesterday's video. I was just going around talking about the different cases because my brain went blank when I heard Pascal case, so then I went on a little exploration and talked through the different cases that you can find in coding, like snake case, Pascal case, camel case, and kebab case. So check that out if you want, and then we will just continue. I was quite hungry, so the kebab was making me hungrier. Okay, yeah, so that's grand. So we were supposed to pass that in as within the tag, but then for the navigation it was supposed to close the actual auth, the consumer tag, and then we just paste in our function which returns something outside of that tag. So I just wasn't sure because of how we did it then in the app.js. I need to cough, excuse me. It's going to pause for a second. So just watching what's happening next now. Okay, so here in our app.js, what we will actually do, rather than pass in just the static value of false or true, we pass in the is logged in set state here, which will dynamically update this for us now. So that's a better approach. Okay, so then in our navigation.js, we're going to use our context everywhere where we've used our props, because this is just how this works when you're using your auth context or consumer. So we've passed in our variable, which is going to know whether or not this is switched on from our is logged in from our app.js, and then in here we actually get this is logged in from our ctx instead of our props, because it's coming from our auth context rather than the props. So we will just change this now. And even inside, I presume, yes. Okay, so no. So we still use our props down here, like on our logout. Oh yeah, so it's only where we have this is logged in coming in, because that's the thing that we've actually passed through with our auth context. And then the other props we still use the props for, so like on logout is still another prop, so that's okay, whereas we've only just passed in our is logged in. So if we save now and then go back and try and log in, we should be able to log in, but this time we'll be logging in with our context as opposed to cool. So it's still working. It worked. Great. And we do have an error. Reference error is not defined. AppJ, yes, 36. Oh, that would have been better if I had said line 36 because it would have rhymed. But anyway. Okay. So this is not defined. Reference error. App 36. Reference error is not defined. Why not? So. Oh no, well we don't need that anymore, do we? So I'm just going to search for that debugger statement. How has that not triggered already? And just comment that out. We were trying to debug something and I was just showing you about the debugger statement as well. In the end, ended up jumping off that ship and moving on. But I did go through it a little bit to the best of my knowledge. I'm not great with it, you know, but still I went through it and I sort of showed you how you step through your code and check the variables that come up along the way. But you know, I wouldn't say, definitely a good small introduction, but I wasn't like this is how you use this thing properly, because I don't really use it all that much myself and I'm still figuring it out. So I am planning on properly figuring it out and doing a proper video, but that was in yesterday's video. Just sort of how to use it. Okay, cool. So now we've got rid of that error. So it was literally either the comma or the debugger statement, and I presume the comma because it was the comma because it was expecting something on that line and it was obviously just expecting something else to be passed through. So that's okay. Cool. Okay, so we can also do this a slightly different way, this auth context. So here in the navigation, rather than doing it in this format, what we can also do is use it slightly differently, and this is how we can use it slightly differently. So we say use context down here. Like, see how many ways Max just explains these things. Like, he's so good, he really is. And like, really in coding there is no one way to do things. So rather than just teaching you one way, which is probably always biased unless it's, you know, specifically supported in the documentation, and then okay, well that's the recommended way to do this particular thing. People love, like, you know, knowing how they want to do things, and people have different ways of doing things. So like, what might be the best way to one person may not be the best way to another person. And Max just goes through like all the ways, you know, and then in certain edge cases as well. So that's just about, well, which one is the recommended way. that can be up for discussion sometimes if it's not explicitly said in the documentation, and then whoever's on the side of that particular way can go, oh, but in the documentation it says this is the way. So, but then there's so many different things you can do with coding. Like, you know, in my projects that I work on personally, I'm generally using the frameworks and the languages. So like Angular or React are two frameworks that I use, and JavaScript is the language I'm speaking about. I would generally use these tools in the way that's described in the documentation. So I wouldn't be doing anything like off the cuff, off the wall necessarily, because, you know, I just haven't learned that level of mad programming yet, where you're like, do you know what, I want to have like this mad component that's switching on and off dependent on what, you know, what the user has assigned to them, you know. So for example, a property application where you want to check what type of property somebody is eligible for dependent on what type of social status they have. Like, that sounds so strange, but like I mentioned it in a positive way. Like, so say if someone needed extra assistance getting a house or something, then you would have that on their profile, and then you'd know that this person needs extra assistance, so therefore they would be in line for a house with certain attributes, or, you know, somewhere where they had space for a carer, for example. So like, it's just some mad examples out there that what programming can actually do. It's so powerful. Whereas in my personal life, like, I'd just be like, okay, I want to build a website, let's go. So I'd be using things close to out of the box, you know, and I could find examples online, and there might be some cases where I'm doing something slightly out there and I just have to figure it out, and that's fine. But then in work, whoever's writing the code, of all the places I've worked at, they are friggin' geniuses, okay? And I feel so honoured to be able to work on these code bases, because I learn. Go and get a job in coding, guys. Like, do your work at home, get your portfolio up, and once you step into the workplace, don't keel over and faint when you see the code that's actually out there, because you're going to be like, how is this even Angular? Like, how is this even React? You know, well, I didn't even know what React looked like too well. Coming in, it looked like double Dutch when I started. I had done a few little projects and been practicing at home in preparation for starting the job. And yeah, then when I opened the project, I was just like, ha. And the same with my previous job. So there's just some highly competent and advanced and experience. It's just they have more experience behind them, you know. Like, I remember I used to always ask people when I was in jobs and I seen some of the code that was out there, I'd be like, how long have you been coding for? You know, like, how long have you been coding for? Feeling like, do you know, am I incompetent? But my answer was, oh, I've been coding for 10 years. I've been coding for 15 years, you know. So, and these were people that were the same age as me. Like, I changed career, and we're all learning, we're all going somewhere. That's why I'm a junior, that's why they were seniors, you know. Well, in one company we didn't even really have levels, so like, this guy was at the same level as me and he looked the same age. He was amazing. So shout out, you know who you are. Oh my god, like, it's a very good friend of mine. We met there recently just to have a little chat and, you know, catch up and all. It was lovely, actually. Had a really great time. But yeah, so, you know, that person looked the same age as me. They are the same age as me, practically a couple of years older, and they are just so competent. Do you know what I mean? Like, they just know things. They'd be like explaining things, and it's just so well. And then even in my current job, I'm getting some training off another guy who looks younger than me, you know. And God, this guy, like, the both of them are just, they just know their stuff, you know. But I mean, I've only been in the game for just 4 years now, and, you know, I feel like even learning the way I learned it, like, a lot of people went straight from college where they had all the logical stuff in their brain, how the underneath of the computer works, because I did computer science in school as well. I did a half split of biology and computer science. So all of my time wasn't focused on computer science. First of all, I never felt like I was this big whiz kid. Like, I wanted to follow a path in biology. That's what I wanted to do. The other kids in my class were taking apart and building computers in their spare time at the weekend in the labs. Like, they were just flying along with the homework. I used to get help off these guys and feel like, oh well, computers isn't for me, you know. Like, clearly I'm not a whiz. I'm not like just adept naturally at this like these people are. Like, anyway, I want to go and do biology. This isn't my focus. So that was sort of the attitude I had, because I just kept computer science because I was getting good grades in it, but not because I seen myself doing it as a career, you know. But then I went into the biology industry. I worked in pharmaceuticals for 5 years, and I thought, you know what, I actually don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm more of a creative person. I haven't had any opportunity to be creative personally in this field. So I thought, I need to go and do something a bit more creative. Like, this isn't for me. So that's what I did, and then start learning at home. So I always sort of thought that from not going directly from college, all of that information was somewhere in my brain, but I felt like I was starting again from scratch. And then I was very much sort of left to my own devices for many, many years while I was learning. So even in my first job and my second job, I was sort of just left to my own devices, you know, and finding information online was difficult. There was definitely people I could ask help for, and that were so helpful. And even my managers and all were brilliant, you know, they were really, really, really great. But coming into a large company that I'm at now, and the support and the training, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I feel like, you know, I sort of, well, I don't wish I had got that from the beginning, because I loved my journey and I loved the places I worked at and I loved the people I met along the way. And, you know, that's your journey, and what's for you and all that won't pass you and whatever else, you know, that's where I was supposed to be at that time. But just being where I am now, and with the support and encouragement and the amount of people around me that are so competent, it blows my socks off. And I'm just so grateful to be here now, because I know my learning is going to just go through the roof, as opposed to, you know, piecing things together slowly and not having the knowledge even to piece them together well. So really just fumbling my way through the first few years at the best of my ability, like trying my absolute hardest to fumble, you know. There was no lack of trying to fumble on my part or trying to do it, but in this position where I am now, I'm just so grateful, because, you know, I always had the drive, and now I have the support, like proper support that I needed the whole time. So that is just unbelievable, and very, very, very great. So yeah, you know, it just takes time. It's just a bit about my story, and, you know, to give you guys some encouragement, because, you know, here I am as well, 4 years in, I'm doing these videos. And after doing these, and from just starting this new job as well, I realised actually a lot of things have clicked, you know. I know a lot more than I was giving myself credit for. There is still so much to learn, and I want to be able to build these mad complex projects in the same way that some of my colleagues can, with more experience. But in 5 more years, you know, I probably will be building those things. Like, I will be. So, you know, don't be hard on yourself. It's all a growth curve. It's all learning. I only just feel like I've stopped fumbling maybe a year or two ago. First 2 years felt like an absolute fumble. Felt like pretty much a failure for most of the time. But I had to just keep telling myself, you are not a failure. You started something new. Just keep going at it, you know what I mean? You will get this, Leanne. You will get it if you just keep on practicing. So don't put yourself down. It's easy to do that, especially learning a new thing. You just have to go through that inflection point and keep on pushing through and practicing every single day. So I hope that was helpful. And on that waffle finish, seeing as my computer had an absolute mare of a day today and was a lunatic, I'm going to have to leave it there and come back, hopefully come back. But, you know, as I said, I have to shoot off after work. I have to go to the other side of the country. So then I won't be back till late, and I was planning on staying in my grandmother's and just spending a bit of time with my dad, watching some TV or something, but we actually have a few bits to do as well. So, you know, we'll just have to see how this goes. I have to travel cross country today, and my computer had the blue screen of death. So anyway, that's enough about me. Oh god, that's enough. So just thank you so much, guys. Anyone that watches my videos, I appreciate it so much. Please do like and subscribe. Like, it's just so great, you know. I really appreciate it. And have an absolutely wonderful Friday, or whatever day you're watching this. Have a great day. Peace and love from Lilly Code. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it. Doo-doo-doo.